Hey guys, this is Mike G here. So, if you know the world of Versus, it's filled with characters that usually have special powers and abilities. But with such a long list of powers, also comes with some amazing weapons. And today, we are going to be counting down my personal favorite fictional weapons of all time. Now, as a disclaimer, keep in mind that this is an opinionated list that does not specifically call out the most popular in the public. It's my list, and I ask for you to please respect my opinion and be nice to those in the comments who list their favorites as well. Also, heads up, I am a huge fan of handheld weapons like axes, swords, hammers, and scythes. So while I love guns, it's most likely that you will see a lot of these hand-to-hand weapons. Now, with that said, let's begin my top 10 favorite fictional weapons of all time. Number 10. YONDU'S arrow from the MCU movies. Now, this little tiny sharp object should not be underestimated, and if you guys have seen the first two Guardian films, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, as this arrow is an insanely agile, stealthy, and immense projectile weapon that is able to defy gravity and move freely through the air at very high speeds, as well as powerful enough to pierce through targets and even spacecrafts. Now, the way this works is that the user must possess an implant upon their head that will act as a link similar to a wireless video game controller. Thus, the user of the arrow will be able to control it by way of high-pitched sonic frequencies, or otherwise whistle certain tunes and pitches to direct the arrow, its intensity, and speed. So, despite its appearance, there is no doubt that YONDU'S arrow is pure lethality. It's unwieldy to any normal person, sure, but it's so glamorous. And with YONDU'S amazing tunes, I think makes it one of the deadliest weapons I have personally seen. It moves at lightning speeds, can pierce through near every surface, and it allows guys like YONDU to take control of nearly any situation, and it's an absolute beast of a weapon that I feel is completely underlooked. Because yes, it's not the most powerful, but it's perhaps the most odd and unique weapon in the MCU. Number 9. The Glove of Doom from Ratchet and Clank. Yeah guys, don't be fooled by these cute little tiny agents of shit, which are first deployed from the glove itself only to self-detonate when coming into contact with nearby targets, or bite them repeatedly to cause damage as you go guns blazing against even larger foes. Now, I was honestly debating between these guys and Mr. Zircon, who is pretty amazing too, and honestly is better for getting around. However, the Dooms have a few things that make them slightly better than Zircon in my eyes. The first of which is that they are best for fighting large groups as well as big enemies and bosses, which means the damage can either be split between multiple targets or concentrate on a single foe. Furthermore, they become far more versatile once upgraded by adding ranged attacks such as bullets, lasers, and get this, even rockets. Plus, they develop the ability to hover, and thus they can fly towards airborne foes. In addition, the more you level up or upgrade, the explosive radius becomes even greater and stronger. Otherwise, Ratchet and Clank is known for having some absolutely amazing weapons, whether they be destructive as hell like the Rhino, tactical like the mini turrets or the guiding missile, or goofy but effective like the Groovatron. To me, the Glove of Doom is not technically the best weapon in Ratchet and Clank, but it's the most nostalgic to me. Plus, how can you not love cute little robots that self-detonate, bite, fly, and fire projectiles? Yeah, you can't, because it's a pretty freaking awesome weapon. Number 8. the Inquisitor's double-bladed lightsaber. So it's no question that the lightsaber is one of the most iconic and badass weapons in fiction. And while the iconic one is great along with some other unique lightsabers made over the years, my personal favorite is the spinning lightsaber. Now, like many lightsabers, it can be used in one of two modes. In its normal setting, it can produce a single blade with a half circle shaped guard on its hilt, or he can add a circle automatically and form it into a double-bladed lightsaber. Now, where it's different from most is once the saber has taken full form of a double-bladed saber staff, its circle guard also serves the purpose of taking the blades and spinning them like a propeller, which means this thing can do everything your traditional lightsabers do, along with being a far more alternative way of slicing through opponents. And more versatile uses such as softening your landings from falls, throw as a disc of death, and as well as overall being a very terrifying weapon when intact. Now I say intact because this thing does have some obvious design flaws, and a very skilled user of a lightsaber could disarm the user of this particular lightsaber. However, I love this thing because while we only saw very few use this, what it shows is that despite its very odd design and functionality, that numerous styles can be applied with this weapon, and some may either be better or worse, but it offers a lot of versatility to anyone who wants to wield this thing. Furthermore, the user can still use it like a single blade or double-bladed staff, as we have seen before with numerous upon numerous lightsabers. Plus, it just looks really freaking cool. Overall, this thing doesn't make it to the top of the list for most hardcore fans, but I myself really see something very special and felt it was deserving of attention on this list. Number 7. The Heavy Assault Rifle from the 2016 video game release of Doom. So what if I told you that there is this amazing assault rifle that is as strong as an LMG and has an alternative for scoring headshots or just attacking opponents from afar at weak points with a scope attachment and very little recoil, if not any at all? Yeah, pretty awesome, but wait, there is something even better and why it makes it on my list, and that is the micro missile attachment that is just simply destruction. Yes. And it does like a crap ton of damage. Now, once you manage to fully upgrade this thing to its peak potential, you can not only get precise shots with more damage, but you can activate the micro missile ability far faster, as well as fire these missiles indefinitely until you run out of ammo, unless you beat a certain rune trial in the game so you can get infinite ammo. So you can fire this thing forever if you wanted to. Now, yes, there are far more better explosive weapons out there to choose from, and perhaps as well as more destructive. But in terms of a weapon that you can access early in the game compared to most explosives, which you earn later, just pushes it to the top. Plus, most explosives are also not assault rifles or LMGs. Also, did I mention that even as a gun, it's absolutely amazing even with just the scope? It's not the BFG, but for not being a super weapon, it's pretty amazing. Oh, and also the Doom-Eternal version of this thing looks amazing. Number 6. The new combat shotgun coming out in Doom Eternal. And speaking of Doom Eternal, it's coming out shortly next year in 2020. And as we of course know, Doom, like Ratchet and Clank, has some pretty amazing weapons. But this new game really looks like they are pushing things to the extreme with its mobility, brutal nature, and most importantly, the weapons. Now, once upon a time, there was a starting gun called the Combat Shotgun. It was at first liked and people loved the idea of having attachments, until people complained about ammo running out too fast, or the grenade attachment either harming the player or being far too hard to use. I myself loved this thing and basically mastered it to the point where it was my bread and butter throughout most of the game. But despite this, many still preferred the Super Shotgun, especially now the new one, which yes, almost made it on this list, but guys, did you see the new Combat Shotgun? Now yes, I am aware that like the Super Shotgun, its primary fire still looks to be very much the same, which will make you think that this thing, just like its predecessor, is going to drop off in terms of usage. But it's been even further improved from what it was in Doom 2016 by adding a freaking badass spinning barrel acting as a chain of powerful shotgun blasts, and thank God, because the burst fire did become a bit underwhelming after a while, and this thing just drastically pushes the damage output by leaps and bounds, thus making it far more effective, accessible, and likable. Now, the other attachment still remains the same, and rightfully so, because I loved using the grenades. However, this version is not only drastically different, but can now fire up to 3 grenade shots as opposed to 1 before needing to recharge. In addition, each grenade shot lights up to indicate where it's going, as well as sticking to targets briefly before detonation. So yeah, man, like many of the guns we are gonna see in Doom Eternal, this amped up version of the Combat Shotgun is gonna make for some amazing demon slaughtering. And like many, I cannot wait for this damn game and its sick ass weapons. Number 5. Death's Scythe from Dante's Inferno. So what happens when you are a man who kills death itself with its own scythe, which you keep and use throughout the 9 circles of hell to punish the wicked? Well, you get a game that is an obvious inspiration of God of War, but on its own is very original and produced one hell of a weapon, Dante's Scythe. Now, there are a lot of scythes in video games, and some that know me personally who are perhaps watching this video are probably pretty surprised that I am not using Death's Harvester from Darksiders 2, which yes, that is an amazing and effective weapon, but Dante's Scythe really is far better, mainly because of its design and versatility. Now obviously this thing is just wicked looking already, being enormous, taller than its wielder, and while hideous with its bony jagged structure, is beautiful in every sickening way. Now, in terms of what it can do, well, it's a shape-shifting weapon that is able to cleave through shades of enemies with relative ease, swing off cliffs, as well as get from place to place in single bounds, and even light itself on fire for extra damage. In addition, you can also extend the scythe to snatch enemies and fling them around like ragdolls, shift into a spear-like weapon to impale hordes of demons, grow and shrink at will to slip past enemy armor and defenses to strike quick and powerful killing blows, and the head of the scythe can collapse into a freaking blade attached to Dante's arm, greatly used for executions or upon an up-close quarters combat. So, this scythe is just overall so badass and satisfying to use, and that I really hope to see in perhaps a sequel or another attempt at bringing back this underrated gem in a new and much better way, of course. Number 4. Raiden's Muramasa High Frequency Blade. So when you think of swords, the first thing that may come to mind is the katana. These swords in legend and proven in real life are not only super sharp, but extremely powerful despite their smaller stature compared to more medieval-like swords. It's been a traditional art in Japan for a very long time, and it's agreed that they make the best swords. In fact, these kinds of swords have become so iconic that they have been presented in many upon many forms of fictional swords and blades. but my favorite one personally is Raiden's high-frequency blade that he obtains towards the end of Metal Gear Rising. Like his prior blade, it's a sword that is reinforced by a strong alternate current of high vibration frequencies. Thus, very much like Black Panther's anti-metal claws, it weakens the molecular bonds of anything it comes into contact with, which means they can cut through almost anything. Yeah, pretty awesome. However, the most powerful of these is the Muramasa blade that was previously wielded by Sam, but was then passed down to Raiden to defeat the final boss. And funny enough, it takes the form of a katana or a samurai sword. But what really makes it not only far superior but different to prior blades is that this thing has been modified using superior technology and turned into a very powerful weapon that emits a strong crimson dark red energy that not only strengthens the power of the vibrations emitted but can also be amplified when charged through his sheath like a Kamehameha blast. It's also bigger, badder, and it's the greatest weapon in Metal Gear, in my opinion. Yeah, that's right, I went there. It's the best Metal Gear weapon. Anyway, now, I know there's a lot of badass swords and katanas in fiction, especially with anime. But this one, to me, I really feel that while it's simple, it's just the best one. Number 3. The Red Lantern Ring from DC Comics. Okay, so Green Lantern, you guys know who Green Lantern is, and a margin of you are probably also familiar with the other lanterns in DC as well. However, I know there are people watching this who are not aware of the other lantern corps or what the Red Lanterns even are. So we will go into a very super quick explanation as well as the powers and abilities the Red Ring grants the wearer. Okay, so back then, there was just the Green Lantern. However, in most recent years in DC Comics, they decided that they was going to expand with a different emotional spectrum of different lanterns, each one having a different color representing an emotion. Now, where green is the Lantern Corps that derives their power from will, the Red Lanterns get their power from the emotion of rage. Now, the Red Lantern Ring causes individuals who wear them to undergo a dramatic transformation by replacing their hearts so they can no longer feel any other emotion than rage and become motivated to exact revenge and cause as much destruction as possible. In addition, the blood of the wearer turns into a liquefied red plasma that the lanterns can spit or fire this blood like an energy blast out of their mouth, and it's incendiary, extremely corrosive, and destructive, with the extent of which is related to the level of rage that is put off. Now, other abilities offered by this ring include light constructs just like the Green Lanterns, the durability of which again is dependent on their state of, well, rage, as well as flight, force fields, and even removes the need for nourishment like food or water. However, to act as a life support, they have to feel only anger. Otherwise, if they feel things like love, they will die. Like, dude, like, what an amazing weapon. Definitely my favorite ring out of the Lantern Corps. Now, yes, I am very much aware of the black and white lanterns, which, yes, they are far more powerful. But I always have had a connection to characters that delve into rage, which if anyone like Hulk, Vegeta, or Kratos were to get a hold of one of these things, then we're not only screwed, man, like we're done for. Like everyone's done. Nobody's gonna stop these guys. Overall, this weapon is a beautiful piece of art and so deadly, man. Number 2, the Blades of Chaos. God of War. One of my favorite games of all time. It's satisfying, nostalgic, and very much like Doom is so very brutal. When this game first came out, I was relatively young, and when I first spawned into the game and pressed the square button, something happened. I was shocked and in awe by the Blades of Chaos, and which have since then always have been my #1 favorite video game weapons of all time. These blades, very much like the number 1 spot, 2 is a non-stop whirlwind of fire that is not only literally badass and brutal as hell, but it's a part of the character, and like his white skin, is a part of his past and sins. Now, in terms of what they can do, well, first off, the blades emit hellfire, while the chains themselves act as an extension to the blades being whipped around. Thus, with these things, Kratos has developed a strange fighting style that is an excellent combo of short and long range devastating attacks that forces his opponents to either be thrown into the air, grounded to submission, grapple chain opponents from a far distance similar to Scorpion's spear, as well as performing absolutely amazing executions, which, by the way, vary a lot because of the blade's versatility and design. Now, yes, this is a little bit similar to Dante's Scythe, which I already talked about. But these things not only work better, but they are far more powerful and iconic. Speaking of iconic, it was absolutely amazing how the creators of the new God of War fooled us into believing that the blades were not going to be in the most recent game, but to only bring them back in the most amazing fashion ever. Which, yes, the gameplay is just as satisfying. Overall, these blades have become a huge part of my experience as a gamer, as well as my childhood. Thus why it's so high on my list. Okay guys, it's time for my number 1 spot. But before I do, I want to run down a sizable list of honorable mentions, as there are so many weapons that I wanted to choose that, oh my gosh, it took me forever. So I'm just going to give you guys a long list. So here we go. So first we have the Keyblade from Kingdom of Hearts, the Predator Shoulder Cannon and Smart Disc, Ghost Rider's Chain from Marvel Comics, Thanos' Infinity Sword from Avengers Endgame, Black Panther's Anti-Metal Claws from Marvel Comics, Captain America's Shield, obviously from Marvel, Kurth the Breaker of Stone's Hammer from Marvel Comics Fear Itself, Deathstroke's Promethium Sword, the Crucible Sword and Axe from the new upcoming Doom-Eternal, Boba Fett's Assault Rifle from Star Wars, Delta's Arm Drill from BIOSHOCK, the Harvester from Darksiders, the Chaos Eater from Darksiders, Strife's Pistols Mercy and Redemption from Darksiders, the Blitz Gun from Ratchet and Clank, and lastly, the Ray Gun Mark II from Treyarch's Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies. And my number 1 favorite weapon of all time is the Dragon Slayer. Simplicity is sometimes the best because with a sword so large that it allows an artist of violence like Guts to decimate foes with the wake of his swing. One move and already blood spills, parts fly, and death became the paint. His sword the brush, and the land the paper. Dragon Slayer, which is Guts' main signature weapon from the manga Berserk, this mighty blade was forged by the blacksmith Godo, and despite its immense size and weight being 7 feet long, 2 feet wide, and 400 pounds, Guts can swing it as if it were weightless, cleaving through the strongest of man-made weapons and even both armored knights and their horses with little effort. It is so big, in fact, that Guts can even use the blade defensively to act as a shield when held out in front of him. Guts has in fact wielded it with such effect that he is not only considered to be one of the greatest swordsmen of all time, but the vast amount of blood from the demons he has slain, including the blood from a God Hand member, has given Dragon Slayer the ability to kill any type of supernatural or astral-based being. However, despite its awesomeness as a weapon, Dragon Slayer is more than just a sword. It is a part of Guts as a character. And Guts, funny enough, is my favorite character of all time. And the meaning of why his swords become larger and larger is not only logically interesting, but also interesting from a character development perspective. Guts has admitted that a life of violence like his is no way to live. And yet, in every single event and battle in his life, he has always had his sword. And the more impactful any event is, the stronger he and the size of his sword becomes. Thus, Dragon Slayer is the peak. It is the weapon that comes to mind, not only when you think of Berserk, but also perhaps very large swords. And for that reason, Dragon Slayer, in my opinion, is the greatest weapon of all time. So we are going to bring this video to an end, but before I do, I have a huge favor to ask of anyone who is watching. In the comments and the description below is a link to a channel that is ran and hosted by a very, very close friend of mine. The channel name is YONDU'S. He games, plays cards, and other numerous things. So if you're into that, check out his channel. Also, go there to stay tuned for our collabs together on some top list on games that we feel need remastered. So yeah, seriously, if you guys do that solid favor, then thank you so much. It really does mean a lot to me. So please do that. Okay, so if you are new here on Dream Battles, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button. And if you enjoyed this video, drop a like, comment, and subscribe for more videos just like it. Also, if you want to be notified when I upload, then please ding dong that notification bell. Mike G off your screen, stay tuned for the next video. Happy holidays, everybody! See you guys soon.